We are so excited to have you here with us today and to have you learn from our professors and our students and our Residence Life panel. So enjoy your time with us, and I'm going to introduce Mr. Thomas Delahunt, who is our Vice President for Enrollment. Enjoy your time. If you have any questions, please do that during the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we will be able to answer those throughout the session. Again, enjoy your time, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning and welcome. If we think back just a couple of months ago, who would have thought that this is how we were going to meet each other through a platform that I didn't even know existed, from my daughter's bedroom as I'm using her desk as my new office. So thank you for taking the time today and hopefully throughout the rest of the week to join us in the various sessions that we have set up for you. As Laura said, please feel free to ask questions, not only today, but throughout the rest of the time as you continue your college search. Our admission counselors are available all day long, as are our financial aid counselors. If you or your families have questions about anything, about depositing, registration, orientation, we are here to help you manage the rest of the college search process. My job today is simply to introduce the first speaker of the day. And I'm thrilled to have that opportunity to introduce to you our president, Dr. Dale Noble. Dale began his college search way back when and did his undergraduate studies at Yale University. He then continued on his advanced degree studies at Northwestern University, began a long teaching career that brought him to Texas A&M, where he quickly rose through the ranks of the faculty there and being named Teacher of the Year at A&M, Professor of the Year, and then becoming Director of their Honors Program. We were fortunate to steal him away from A&M at Southwestern, and when he became Dean of our faculty, where he served us for a few years, before he had the great opportunity to be President of Denison University in Ohio, where he and his wife Tina served for 13 years. Upon retirement, they had so fallen in love with Georgetown, Texas, that they decided to come home and got re-engaged with the Georgetown community and with the university and became a member of our Board of Visitors and our Board of Trustees. When we had the opportunity or the need to have an interim president in January, Dale was the obvious choice. Tina gave him permission, and we could think of no one better in hindsight to lead us through this crazy crisis of COVID-19 as he continues his interim presidency. Our new president, Dr. Laura Trombley, will begin on July 1st, but Dale has been a great partner for all of us as we go through this. So now, without further ado, please let me introduce Dr. Dale Noble.
Thank you, Tom, and good morning to all. I'm talking to you from my study at home, just a few minutes away from the Southwestern campus. You'd never guess I'm a historian by trade. I'm surrounded by my library. You can see a piece of it there after 40 years as a historian of American history. I walked the Southwestern campus yesterday, though, and the trees are in bloom. The tree canopy all around our academic mall is now leafed out. On the fringes of the campus, the red poppies are in bloom, a Georgetown trademark. I'm always pleased by the mix of historic buildings that connect us with Texas's past and absolutely up-to-date facilities. In fact, it was downright park-like. There's only one thing that was missing, and that's you. It didn't seem like a college campus without the students. And so I'm especially glad to see you. You're that magic ingredient that turns a park into a college or university. This is a virtual time we're living in, isn't it? We're learning virtually, both at the university level and the high school level. We're shopping more virtually. We're interacting with family and friends virtually. But what you're doing today isn't virtual at all, though we're using the magic of technology to connect. It's very real. It's making a college match. And I like to think of it as a match. It's making sure that you're right for us and we're right for you. I think we've already made a decision about you. We think you'd be a good fit for us. You're now at that point where you're trying to figure out whether Southwestern is the right fit for you. And you couldn't be doing anything more important right now. After all, a college experience is where you prepare not just for a career, but for life, where you develop relationships with probably a wider array of persons than you've had the experience of so far in life. You have the chance to build friendships that can last, well, forever. So a college diploma in the end isn't just something upon your wall, but rather something that helps shape you. Today, as you heard, you're going to hear from faculty from the social sciences, the natural sciences, the fine arts, and from the humanities. You'll be able to engage with folks from residence life and student life, and throughout the week, there are other opportunities to connect with people who can talk about pre-med and business opportunities and athletics opportunities and opportunities in the fine arts. I hope you'll take advantage of those as you find them suiting your needs. As you interact with these Southwestern folks, what should you be looking for? Well, when I think about Southwestern, as you heard from Tom, I've had two experiences, a chance to serve more than 20 years ago as the provost and dean of the faculty and professor of history, and then by choice to come back more than 20 years later and become part of the board of trustees and now serve this very special year for me, and I hope for others, as Southwestern's president. What you look for, what I found is that Southwestern is a place about relationships. Obviously, it's a place where you develop relationships with your professors who are your mentors. This is a place where classes are uniformly not just small, but interactive. Classes that put you on the stage, where you're asked to expose your ideas, to share those with others, to have them amended, criticized, cheered, as you all grow together. A Southwestern classroom is a learning environment where your professors are, in many ways, learning along with you. If you're looking for a place where you're never heard from, where you can slink down in the 35th row of a large lecture hall and never be heard from again or seen, this is probably not the right place for you. It's a place where you are asked to be an active participant in your own learning experience. That relationship with professors goes well beyond what happens in the classroom. It goes to mentorship as they help you think about what happens after college. It relates to the opportunity that you have to work with faculty one-on-one in independent research opportunities, sometimes even publishing together. Southwestern is also a place about relationships when you think about your connection with other students. We're a residential campus. We live together either on the campus or very near. It's where you interact with a wide array of peers who come from a diversity of backgrounds and experiences, and you interact with them in different ways in the classroom, in the laboratory, on the athletic field, in student organizational life, in the residence hall, and each one of those are learning experiences as well as living experiences. You will leave Southwestern with a rich array of connections which may pave the way for you later on in life, not only with current students, but also with alumni. One of the fun things for me is, as I fanned out from Southwestern 20-some years ago across the country, I ran into Southwestern graduates over and over again. And they always asked about other people that I knew on the campus. They wanted to know about their professors. It may have been a professor from 20 years ago, professor that made a huge difference in their life. They want to know about a peer. Did I know about another graduate? That's something special about Southwestern. We don't know what the future holds in terms of the kind of careers that you might have, but we know that the liberal arts and sciences will prepare you for whatever lies ahead. We don't know what tomorrow's jobs are, but we do know that careers are looking for people who are resourceful, who can learn and learn anew throughout their lives, who can communicate clearly in writing and speaking, who have the analytical ability to dig beneath the surface, to assemble information and to draw conclusions from it. All of those which are taught by the liberal arts and sciences. As Tom Delahunt shared with you at the outset, I've had kind of a grand tour of American higher education over about 40 or 50 years. Two large private research universities, a public research mega university, two national liberal arts colleges. And one of the things I've learned is that each of them have their excellences. But I've also learned that I think the very best learning and growing experiences are at the places like Southwestern. I had the chance at a big public research university to develop a university-wide honors program, asked by the president to do so with a lot of resources. Interestingly, they said, why don't you try to create a place like Southwestern? within this university. That tells you something. And I could simulate some of what happens at Southwestern. I could offer some small classes. I could offer some personal connection with leading professors. I could even offer some residence experiences, but I couldn't create the holistic learning and living experience that we can at Southwestern. At best, it was a simulation. We want the right match too. I think I'll end by simply reminding you that making the right match is important for us. A college like Southwestern turns over 25% of its student body every year. 25% of our students go out the door as graduates. And the 25% who come in as first-year students change the entire tenor of the place because they come with their own skills and experiences and backgrounds, and Southwestern changes and renews itself. And so we get excited this time of year as faculty and staff of the university as we contemplate who next year's Southwestern is going to be. And as we interact with you, we begin to get a sense, of that. You know, just right now, we are offering learning remotely, but we're doing it in the Southwestern way. You know, remote learning is working for us temporarily because the close connection between students and faculty was already there. They know each other, they have confidence in each other, they are able to interact in a very personal way through distance learning methods that wouldn't be possible at a large and complex and less personal place. Having said that, we can hardly wait to get back together, to be face-to-face in the classroom, in the residence hall, and campus life, and turn that park into a university again. You're a part of that. I'm going to stay involved with Southwestern. I'll take off my president's hat, that pirate hat, and put back on the trustee cap that I've been wearing for several years and be very much a part of the community. I look forward to welcoming you in the fall and joining President Trombley in that. I hope that Southwestern might be the right match for you. Have a great day and a great week with us. Thanks.
I would like now to introduce Dr. Elisa Gonder, who will be the moderator for our first session today.
It's good to see you and be here today for our faculty panel. We're very excited to talk about the things that you are going to experience here at Southwestern and introduce you to faculty and students from the various areas of the university. I am a professor of political science. I have been at Southwestern for 17 years, and I'm also currently serving in the role of Dean of the Faculty. I continue to teach one course a year in the political science department related to my area of specialty, Japan and Asia. And I also work with students through independent studies and honors projects. And right now, I'd like to introduce the panelists here to answer your questions. And that is our main purpose, to answer what you want to know about the academic program at Southwestern. There is a Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen. If you simply hover down there, it will pop up and you can type in questions. And my job for this session is to ask the panelists the questions from you, but I'll get us started through introductions. And we have faculty from our 4 areas, the fine arts, social sciences, humanities, and natural sciences, as well as 2 students here to tell you about their experiences at Southwestern. So I would like to ask each faculty member to tell us what their discipline is, as well as how long they've been at Southwestern, and maybe something distinctive or exciting about their major or program. So we'll start with Sergio Costola from the Fine Arts and Theater.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sergio Costola, and I'm an associate professor of theater, and I currently serve as Paideia director as well. I've been at Southwestern since 2003, so this is my 18th year that I'm going to start pretty soon. I'm part of a department of about 50 to 60 majors with currently 6 faculty members. And on top of that, we hire more faculty members, and they're mostly our guest artists teaching classes and working on our productions on a rotation basis. So if you think about the ratio, is about, with all the faculty members and guest artists we have, is about 1:7, 1:6. And this allows us to apply the liberal arts philosophy to the way in which we produce theater, that is kind of rare at the undergraduate institution in a theater department. And so our students do not simply act on stage, but they get the opportunity to design, direct, and as a result, collaborate with artists, local, but also from all over the country. And so by the time they graduate, when they are looking for a job or when they're trying to apply for grad schools, they don't simply have projects that they've done in class to show, but they actually have projects that are coming out of real productions and collaborations with artists, which is a very unique thing at the undergraduate level.
Wonderful, thank you. Next, we have Emily Sidnor from the social science area and political science.
Hi, everybody. As Dr. Gonder said, I'm Emily Sidnor. I teach American politics in the political science department, and I've been at Southwestern for about 5 years now. And to speak, I guess, a little bit about political science, I think one of the great things that we offer as a department is the opportunity to get involved not only in global politics, to study abroad, to talk about international relations, but also to think about politics and government as it's happening on the national stage, whether that's through classes with me or internships and studying in Washington, D.C., or even from the first American politics class, getting involved in civic engagement and voting efforts on campus and in Georgetown. So it's a really fun place to be, to learn a lot about not only the local community, but the national community and international.
Wonderful, thank you. Next, we have Katie Ross from the Spanish department in the humanities area.
Hi, thank you very much for being here today. I've been at Southwestern for, I believe it's been 15 years now. And my area of research and teaching is in Spain, although in the Spanish department, we teach a lot of language classes as well. Each student who comes here is asked to fulfill 3 semesters of language, be that the language I studied in high school or a different language. You can do that through multiple ways, either taking the classes here, placing out, things like that. Our department is a wonderful place to study. I would say that the large percentage, probably 80% of our majors are double majors. Our curriculum makes it very easy for students to study two different departments during their time here. We also have a huge number of students who study abroad as part of their major in Spanish, and all of our students complete some sort of community engaged learning project in their classes, either in their earlier time in the Spanish language classes or in the upper level classes. The other thing that our department does a lot is faculty student research, which might sound strange being in Spanish, but we do have a lot of history with working with students either on their own projects or integrating them into our projects.
Great, thank you. And finally, we have Dr. Ben Pierce from Biology and the Natural Sciences.
Good morning. So glad that you're here with us this morning. As Dean Gonder said, I'm Ben Pierce. I teach in the biology department. We have really strong science programs at Southwestern, including very strong pre-health programs, pre-medical programs, pre-dental, pre-veterinary medicine. I think one of the things that really makes our science programs distinctive at Southwestern is something that President Noble talked about, and that's that we really have our students engage in active learning in the classroom. Our classrooms are very active places. Students are very involved in the learning process. In the sciences, we believe strongly that one of the best ways to learn science is to actually do science. And so we have students involved in research at all aspects of our curriculum. Even in the very beginning introductory courses, students do real science where they collect real data that contributes to sort of the national understanding of science. And we continue this throughout our courses. Students also have the opportunity to engage in research with faculty members. All of the science faculty are active scholars and involved students in their scholarship. So just last year, I published a couple of papers. These papers had student co-authors, In March, I took one of my students to a meeting where she presented her work. And so this is very common in the sciences. Students are very much not only a part of our classrooms, but also a part of our scholarship. Thank you.
Great, and we have two students on our panel today to talk about their experiences as well. And first we'll hear from Alicia Lewis.
Hi, my name is Alicia Lewis. I'm a junior from Tyler, Texas. I'm double majoring in psychology and political science. I've been fortunate enough to actually be a research assistant in political science for Dr. Sidnor. I'm also the director of philanthropy for my sorority. I'm an ambassador in the Office of Admissions, and I'm president of the Honor Food Council.
Wonderful. We also have Giselle Perez, and she can introduce herself now.
Hi, my name is Giselle. I'm a current senior. I'm majoring in psychology and minoring in health studies. On campus, I'm also involved in my sorority. I was the recruitment chair and the social chair. And yeah, nice to be here.
Wonderful. So when you come to Southwestern, you have a large portion, or 1/3 of what you're going to do at Southwestern is the liberal arts, where you're exposed to all of the areas that we've just been talking about. Students take courses in the fine arts, the social sciences, the humanities, and the natural sciences. They also, as Dr. Ross mentioned, have a language requirement. We have a social justice requirement as well as some fitness and recreation. And so that's about 1/3 of what you do in terms of your coursework at Southwestern. And then you take about 1/3 of courses that are related to your major. And then there's 1/3 of electives where you can choose sort of what else you want to do. And so that might be a double major, it might be a minor, it might be a study abroad experience or an internship. So there's a lot of room for exploration, which is a lot of what the liberal arts experiences are about. So I want to start with the students. Have you done any internships or research assistantships or study abroad? And can you tell us sort of about one of those experiences?
So I mentioned earlier that I'm a research assistant for Dr. Sidnor. We're doing research in political psychology and how that's related to place-based behavior, or how the state that you live in can actually affect the way you vote and the way you participate in politics. I also studied abroad over the summer. My program was actually a collaboration between the psychology department and the communication studies department. So we went to Portugal, France, and Hungary for about a month over the summer and spent 9 days in each country. We took 2 classes, one on cross-cultural psychology and one on the rhetoric of tourism. So we would go to different tourist destinations and we would write short response papers about how the place and how the history of that country was presented, and about the framing. And that was our study for communication studies. And for our psychology course, we would actually go out and interact with locals, ask them questions, and interview them. And we would have that as part of a larger research project that we ended up doing a group paper for.
Wonderful. Dr. Sidnor, can you share some your perspective of engaging students in your research?
There we go. Sorry, guys. I totally know how to use video. Anyway, I was about to say that I've worked with research students in a lot of different capacities. So as Alicia mentioned, we've been working for the past academic year on a project where we're looking to see how people think about their sort of identity as Texans or Virginians or New Yorkers, and how that might impact their political behavior. I've also worked with students in a more laboratory-based setting. So we did a project last year that looked at how student participants reacted to incivility in politics and what that might change about their feelings about certain speakers on campus and things like that. And I think to keep it brief, the kind of best part about working with students in research is just getting excited about the projects together. You guys are more creative in lots of ways than some of the ideas I come up with. And so it's really great to see how students can engage with the project, come up with creative ways to implement it, and really help push the research forward. So we're really collaborators in that experience. It's not me telling students what to do.
Great. I want to remind the audience to type their questions in the Q&A box so that we can address them. And then I want to give Giselle a chance to answer about a distinctive experience she's had at Southwestern.
Yeah, so actually this year I had the opportunity to be a part of an organization outside of Southwestern as an intern. So I interned for Sugarwood Studio as the artistic administration intern. It was an unpaid internship, but fortunately our career services office has an amazing opportunity to apply for funding. So I actually got a scholarship to conduct this internship, so I got paid as well, which is really nice. And as a senior, this internship has been very, I don't know, it has really completed my experiences at Southwestern, because it's one thing to just learn what you're interested in studying and pursuing, but it's another thing to go out and get experiences to develop those skills in a real life scenario. And I think that's an awesome opportunity that Southwestern offers, and that it's so easy to incorporate into your academic experience as an internship.
Thank you. So we have our first question. What do faculty at Southwestern feel makes a successful student in their classroom? Who wants to answer that? If you can just unmute. I'm gonna have to call
Well, I would say one of the things is just curiosity, students that are curious and interested in learning. I think that makes the biggest difference in my classes.
And students who want to be there. You know, as Dr. Noble was saying, this is not a university where you can hide in the back. We know your names and we know a lot of times where you live, not to sound threatening, but the campus is small. And so we see you, if you're not in class, we see you on our way to lunch or in the cafeteria, or, you know, later that evening at the gym. And so we want you to want to be here and to want to come to class. And I think that for me is the biggest thing we want from our students.
For me, one of the most important things is to have students who are willing not to be students, but rather collaborators. We have, as you have heard from our students, a high number of opportunities for leadership positions for our students. And so we are looking for students who want to be leaders, students who are extremely proactive, and the students who are going to take advantage of all these opportunities: internships, civic engaged learning, collaborations with faculty members, and so on and so on.
So we had a question that got answered in chat, but I'll let Dr. Ross talk a little bit about what the language requirement looks like at Southwestern and the ways in which students can fulfill that. We also have a question, what different languages are offered?
Great. Thank you for asking those. We offer Spanish, French, Chinese, and German. The way most students have had language, especially Texas students, have all been required to take at least 2 years of language in high school. A lot of those students finish that language requirement their sophomore year, and so they choose to start over either in a new language when they start at Southwestern, or they continue to study the language they studied in high school. Because of that, we offer a proficiency test when the students start, a placement test, and the students take that before they register for classes. And that allows them to see if they should start in a language 1, or they could move up in a language 2, or even if they could place out of their language requirement. So a lot of students come in and place out of their language requirement and are not required to take any language while they're here. Obviously, if you've taken an AP test and gotten a 3, 4, or 5 on that, you can place out of your language requirement. There was a second part of that question now. Oh, I think that a lot of students, as I said, decide to start over in their language, but we do really try to recommend that students challenge themselves by starting as high up in that language requirement as they can. And it is a 3-semester requirement, not a 3-year requirement. I might have missaid that earlier, but you need to take 3 semesters of language study. And if you place out, then you are required to take no semesters, because we just want you to be proficient in the language that you're studying.
A follow-up to that, a student asked, if I want to study a different language other than the language that I learned in high school, is it okay to be a beginner in that language?
Absolutely. We love people like that who are willing to start a different language in college. We have a lot of students who studied Spanish in high school and then come to college and want to study Chinese. And so that's a big draw for the Chinese program. And they almost always have students just starting in Chinese 1, because there aren't a lot of high schools that offer Chinese. And so we very much encourage students to explore and take different languages. We have lots of students who take 2 languages just because they're interested. They took Spanish in high school and want to take a little bit of Spanish to remind them, but then they'd want to take French because for whatever reason that might be.
I'm actually gonna jump in on that. So I am proficient, like Spanish is my first language. So that's what I took in high school. But when I got to Southwestern, I was really looking forward to like challenge myself. And so I actually went for my 3rd language, which was French. And I started from French 1, took French 2 and 3. And honestly, it was like one of the best experiences ever. I'm still a little rusty, but it's really cool being able to semi-understand French, because I actually have an international friend that goes to Southwestern and his first language is French. And so it's kind of fun to try to speak French with him. But it was so easy. The professors were so ready to help you. And my class was only like 6 other people. So we had a lot of small groups. We would have the French table at the Commons. And so you'd go once a week and practice your French while eating lunch with your classmates and your professors. So it's so easy to take a language that you've never taken before at Southwestern, in my opinion.
Wonderful. Our next question is, what opportunities exist for taking a second major? Alicia, I know you're a double major. Do you want to start with that?
Sure. So you actually don't have to officially decide what you would like to major in until 2nd semester of your sophomore year, which was really good for me because I've always been a psychology major, but I didn't decide to major in political science until over winter break of last year when I was a sophomore. And so you don't necessarily have to decide right away. There's a lot of flexibility in regards to the timing. And then once you decide, you can go to CCPD or the Center for Career and Professional Development and talk to them about ways that you can kind of merge those 2 majors if that's something you're interested in. I'm connecting both political science and psychology by doing research in political psychology and political behavior, and I plan on going to grad school specifically for that. And because Southwestern is all about making connections, you can sometimes find faculty who are interested in that sort of interdisciplinary work, so you can do work with both majors by connecting them. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out to your professors and just visit the Career Center to see kind of what opportunities and ideas that they have. But it's definitely easy to be a double major here, and it's really easy to kind of bridge the gap between those 2 subjects, just with the way the school operates with Paideia and Mosaic.
That's exactly right. There's a lot of flexibility because our general education is only about 1/3 of the number of courses you take. There's a lot of room if students want to double major or major and minor in something. The next question is there an advising process put towards students who are undecided? How does Southwestern handle this situation? Wonder if some faculty can step in and talk about how they might advise an undecided student.
I'm happy to talk about that. I'm sorry, my dog just started barking in the background, so he's a very barky dog. Students are assigned to faculty members, and we work with those students for 4 years for advising. And I would say that most of the students that I advise are undecided when they start with me. There's just so much you don't know when you come to college and about the different areas of study and the areas that you could possibly major in. And I think a lot of students also don't know about what their career would be. And a lot of the talk we have with undecided students is that your major is really the least important decision you have in your college career, because it doesn't actually matter what you major in. It's having the experiences of being in college and the skills that a liberal arts college teaches you. So being a theater major, a Spanish major, political science major, biology, whatever your major is, all of those things are going to get you the skills you need to move into a career that you're going to find fulfilling. So that's a lot of the talk that we have in advising for our undecided majors is you need to find an area of study that you enjoy studying and major in that. The career that comes with your internship, your high impact experiences, your study abroad, all of those other experiences you have help you figure out what your life will be, but your major is just a very minor part of that. The other thing is that our general education requirements ask you to take classes from across the university. And so you might think, oh my gosh, I'm scared. I don't want to take politics. Politics sounds scary. But then you take a class with Dr. Sydnor and you're like, oh, maybe I do like that. So you take another political science class just because you're interested. And then by the end of your sophomore year, you're like, I could major in political science. And I never really thought about majoring in political science. But because you've taken it as part of your general ed, you all of a sudden have a major. So once again, the major is such a minor part of what you're doing here. It's the overall experience of being a college student and studying what you love. And so those are the kinds of conversations we have as part of our advising and the relationships we build with our students as their faculty or staff advisors.
Great. We have a question about class sizes at Southwestern. So I wonder if each faculty member can give an overview in their department to this question. Is there a big difference between class sizes for upper division and lower division classes? Maybe if you can just talk a little bit about the difference between those and sort of what classes are like at Southwestern. You want to start with Sergio?
Yes, there is a difference. Lower division classes tend to be, because they require classes for all majors, and they also tend to be the classes that are very popular with no majors, like design fundamentals, fundamentals of acting, introduction to play analysis, introduction to theater. They tend to be bigger classes. And by bigger classes, they still are classes depending on the subject. So in introduction to play analysis or design fundamentals might have 25 students, but an acting class is capped at 18 or 20, right? So we are always careful about the specific pedagogy of each class. And then upper division classes, they vary greatly. And so they can range between 10, in some classes even smaller groups, to about 15. Those are our the numbers in our upper division classes.
Great. Ben?
So in the sciences, our classes are relatively small. They range in size from about 10 students up to about 30 or 35. Our introductory biology classes have around 30 to 35 students, but those are the biggest classes that we have in biology. Occasionally, we'll teach an upper level class that has 2 lab sections, and that might be a larger class. So last fall, I taught genetics. There were 2 lab sections, and I had 30 students in genetics, but that's pretty unusual. Usually, our upper level classes, the size is limited by the size of the lab. The faculty teach not only the courses, but the labs as well. And so our lab rooms typically only hold 16 to 20 students. And so that generally limits the size of our upper level science classes. But as I said, occasionally we'll teach a couple of labs. That's the other thing, is that in the sciences, the faculty not only teach the classes, they teach the labs. At many schools, graduate students teach labs in the sciences, but we don't have any graduate programs at Southwestern. So we get to see the students in the class and get to work with them in this very much hands-on kind of learning that takes place in the labs.
Emily, what about in political science?
So our introductory classes range around 30 students. So if you take American politics with me or comparative politics, you'll have about 29 other people with you. And when we get into our upper level classes where you're doing more intensive individual research and learning how to sort of write and think like a political scientist, we cap those classes at around 15.
Great. Dr. Ross?
The languages are very different. Spanish is the most popular language on our campus, and so our classes tend to range between 18 and 20 students for all of our classes, both lower level and upper level, except for the capstone. The capstone tends to be smaller depending on the year. With the Chinese, French, and German classes, their language classes, once again, are about 18 to 20. And then when you get to the upper level culture and literature courses, I think Giselle said something about 7 people in one of her French classes. I know that the Chinese classes can be smaller than that, and the German classes as well.
Great. We have another language question. Can I choose to take another semester of the language even if I place above proficiency? I know you're going to love that question.
Oh, I still love that question. Yay. Yes, please take more language. I think that a lot of students and people are under the apprehension, is that a word? That language ends with learning the language. And so no, those are the classes that we most love teaching, is about culture and literature and film. And we have an upper level Spanish class in the fall on Colombian cinema taught by one of our professors from Colombia. We do all sorts of interesting upper level classes in all of the languages where you can really delve deeper into what it means to speak a language. So yes, please place out of your language requirement and come take upper level classes with us.
Great. Back to double majoring, maybe Alicia and Giselle can answer this one. What tips would you give for doing double majors or majoring and minoring?
I think probably the biggest tip I would give would just be to make sure it's something that you're genuinely interested in. Make sure it's something that you think is fun, that you'll really enjoy studying. Sometimes people will decide that they want to minor in something or pick up a second major exclusively because they think it'll make them more competitive either for graduate school or the workforce. And it can make you more competitive, but that's not the only reason you should necessarily do it. You shouldn't decide to have a minor or a second major in something that you don't enjoy, because otherwise it will be a very long 4 years for you. So you really should just try to make it as enjoyable as possible. The two majors can be related in some way. Maybe they're both humanities, maybe they're both natural sciences, maybe they're both completely different. But either way, just make sure you're choosing a major that you enjoy to a point where it doesn't seem like it's work to major in it. Make sure that's something that you really think is fun and that it won't be a chore to take classes in that department.
Great. Giselle, do you have something?
So I actually came into Southwestern kind of undecided. So I kind of have experience in going into an advising session, not really knowing what I wanted to major in. And the conversation that I had with my advisor was just take any class that speaks to you, that sparks your interest. And so within my first year at Southwestern, I had taken almost all of my prereqs and all of my different sections that I needed for my curriculum. And in that process, not only did I find a passion for what I wanted to major in, which was psychology, but I also gathered a lot of classes for the potential to either minor in something or major. But I have always had a passion for just taking a lot of random classes that I actually accidentally ended up minoring in health studies, because health studies is one of our interdisciplinary majors, and that means that you get to take classes in a bunch of different disciplines. And so I ended up taking like an American politics class, a chemistry class, a history course that talked about like sickness and illnesses and all that. And so then there I was with a health studies minor. And so I think very much like what Alicia said, is the best tip is just to take classes that you enjoy. And then before you know it, you're probably minoring or majoring in something.
This seems like a good opportunity to talk a little bit about our Paideia program. This is one of the main student learning outcomes or things that we want students to know when they leave Southwestern is how to make connections across what they're doing in their classes and what they're doing in their classes and outside the classrooms, and how to approach problems and questions from various different disciplines. And we're lucky today to have the director of the Paideia program here. So I'm wondering if Dr. Costola can talk a little bit about that. And then I think Dr. Ross has been a Paideia seminar instructor, and then Giselle has been a participant. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that, starting with Dr. Costola.
Yes, at Southwestern, Paideia is an integral part of the curriculum, and actually can be described as our way to activate what a liberal arts education has to offer. So usually in a liberal arts education, the challenge is to keep a balance between the depth that is required in a particular subject and the breadth of knowledge that our new society is requiring, right? So it is requiring us to be able throughout our life to pivot quite a number of times, because either of economic necessity or also for personal growth, for choice. And so at Southwestern, with Paideia, we try to connect everything that the students are learning. And so too often in a liberal arts setting, you have the major, the classes you take in the major, and that's what's called distribution requirements. That is an awful name, in my opinion. So meaning you're gonna take a few classes here and there to gather, hopefully, this general knowledge. Here at Southwestern, instead, we have tried to integrate this knowledge. And so as you enter in your FYS class, you're gonna introduce to the art of making connections. Then each major actually has classes, including the capsule, devoted to the idea of making connections that will allow you also to make connections with classes that are not in your major. So try to use different theoretical frameworks to tackle pressing issues or problems. And then we connect these with what we call high learning experiences, study abroad, faculty student research, civic engaged learning. On top of that, so there are connections happening at the academic level. There are connections with the co-curricular activities, but we also have now a new office, that is the Office of Mosaic, that is helping students to make connections between what they learn in the classroom, outside of the classroom, with student life. So that student life, since it's a residential campus, and the vast majority of our students spend 4 years on our campus, so the life on campus also becomes meaningful and is integrated with the academic and the co-curricular side. For students who want to go beyond what is required, as Dean Garner was mentioning, we have a Paideia seminar that is usually the students can take, they're not required, but they can take during their either junior or, junior or senior year. And it's usually team taught by 2 different professors. Katie Ross has been teaching, has already taught this seminar more than 2 times. She's teaching it this semester as well. And so probably she can tell you what the seminar is about.
Great. Yeah, so I've had the honor of being able to teach the seminar now for 2 semesters. And the way the seminar, this Paideia seminar works is students apply to be part of this so they can graduate with Paideia with distinction, which means they've done, as Dr. Costola described, these experiences across campus where they've integrated their major, their minors, and their high impact experiences along with their just living on campus experiences. And then the faculty members set up a theme that the course is based on. And we talk with the students about how to analyze that theme through different disciplinary lenses. And so the theme of my seminar this semester is migration. And I talk about it through the lens of the humanities, and how people move across borders. But last semester in the class that Giselle was in, We had a physics major who talked about the migration of birds. We had a political science major that talked about the migration of political thought across ideas. We had communication studies majors who looked at the how rhetoric migrates through different nations and how that works. And so each student then is tasked with trying to discover a way in which that theme matches with their major or minor or high impact experiences. And then after we model how that works, we ask the students to take over the classes, and then the students for the second half of the, or depending on how many students there are, for most of the semester, then lead the classes and teach the classes based on their disciplinary knowledge. Giselle, would you like to talk about what you did last semester in the class?
Yeah, so like Dr. Ross said, our theme was like migration movement, and my major is psychology. And so I decided to, for that section of the course where we teach for a class, I talked a lot about how migration affects the psychology of immigrants and migrants. And so it was a really neat opportunity to take a theme and relate it to what you're interested in studying. But what's also really neat for me was seeing how that connected with other disciplines and the opportunities that my fellow students had. And so I also ended up learning so much. I remember one of our first student teaching days, someone talked about My Ponies or something like that, and it was like such an interesting take on migration, because they talked about like the migration of like technology and about trends. And so it's really interesting because it really expands your way of thinking, and you kind of develop a lot of skills of problem solving, at looking at things from different perspectives and integrating all of that.
Great, thank you. We have a question about Georgetown. People want to know what is the leadership and atmosphere of the town. I wonder if we could approach that sort of in ways that Southwestern engages with the town of Georgetown through civic engaged learning projects or sort of field-based research in political science and Spanish. I know we have civic engagement, and then maybe Dr. Pierce can talk about the way in which he engages with the surroundings of Georgetown. So let's start with political science.
Sure. So as part of the introductory American politics class, which is likely the one that many of you would take as your first political science class, we do a lot of civic engagement and civic engaged learning, which is one of those high impact things that we've been talking about over the course of the session. And so we do that in a lot of different ways, right? A lot of what we're trying to do is just give everybody in the class an opportunity to learn a little bit about Georgetown, the government of Georgetown. We tend to ignore sort of local politics and local government to focus a lot on national government, when in reality, most of the things that you're experiencing on a day-to-day basis are things that are being decided by the mayor and city manager and people like that. So in the class, I give students a lot of leeway about how they complete the civic engagement, but I encourage them to go to city council meetings, to visit the Chamber of Commerce, to attend candidate forums, to people go to the planning and zoning committee meetings and always come back and are like, whoa, we could just walk in, this is so cool. And so sort of learning about the role that Southwestern plays and that students can play in local politics and local government, even if you feel like this is a sort of transitory place, right, that you're only going to be here 4 years, that this is really an opportunity to get to know a really interesting and neat community that has a lot to offer students.
I want to make sure that Ben has time to talk about his salamanders, but all of our students in Spanish 3 are required to take part in a community engaged learning project in which they work with the elementary school population here in Georgetown. We have a very large Spanish speaking population in Georgetown, and we also have a lot of students, elementary students who are doing dual language learning. And so we place our Spanish 3 students into those classrooms, and so they can see Spanish language in action.
So one of the areas of research that I do is research on amphibians. And within the Georgetown area, we have a salamander that's unique to this area called the Georgetown salamander. It's only found at a few places, very small population size. About 8 years ago, the Williamson County, our local county, came to me and said that they wanted to fund some research, doing some conservation research on this species. And so we got involved in that, and I've had a large number of students that have worked on this project, probably over 50 students over the last 8 years. And we collected a lot of information about the ecology of the salamander and where it's found and what it does. During this time period, that species was proposed to be put on the endangered species list. And so the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was interested in our research and used much of the data that the students actually collected to make a decision about placing that species on the endangered species list. And so the biology students here and environmental studies students, a large number of students at Southwestern, really contributed to that project and contributed data that helped make a national decision about this particular species. So we've had a great partnership with Williamson County on this research and now the city of Georgetown. And we also partner with Williamson County to put on a statewide symposium on conservation biology. We do that every year. And again, that's a partnership between Southwestern University and Williamson County.
Well, unfortunately, we're not going to get to all of the questions. We've gotten through a lot, but I would like to end because I think it's important to know, and it's one of the best experiences I think students have is our capstone experience. We have a question. Can you explain a little more about what the capstone is? We'll answer that last. And Giselle, I wonder if you're in capstone or have taken capstone and want to address that.
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of jumped the gun a little bit and I thought I was going to graduate early. So I took capstone my junior year. But a capstone looks very different to different majors. I personally, as a psychology major, I have the opportunity to either conduct research for a whole year with a professor or partake in an internship for a year. I went with the former. I conducted research with a professor here at Southwestern, and I did research in clinical psychology, which was an awesome opportunity. There was 4 other students in our class, so you got to experience that whole process from beginning to end with a team the way you would at a graduate program. But for other majors, for example, the business department, there's 2 different capstones, but they both try to tackle at developing skills that will help you once you graduate from Southwestern. And I think that can be said for a lot of the capstones at Southwestern. It's creating skills that will help you either pursue graduate school or a career in your choice.
Great. Well, thanks to our panelists today, and thanks for all of you for attending this virtual conversation. If your question didn't get answered, I encourage you to reach out to anybody on the admissions staff, or you can look any of us up on our website, and any of us would be happy to expand on what we've talked about today or address any questions, talk to you on the phone. Please reach out. We're a small place and we're about the students, and we love to talk about what we do. So thank you for coming, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gonder and everyone else who participated. We will be back in a few minutes and we will be talking about residence life. We look forward to seeing you then.